Hi, I'm Rachel Chin, and this is the story of how I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can understand you the least. For 15 years, I built a technology empire from my garage. But apparently that wasn't enough for my perfect family. In the Chin family, education was everything. My older brother, Michael, was the golden child. Perfect grades, perfect SAT scores, and a full ride to Harvard Business School. I was different. Numbers spoke to me in another language. While Michael memorized textbooks, I was taking computers apart, learning to code, and dreaming of building something revolutionary. Rachel, you're wasting your potential, Mom would sigh, shaking her head as I worked in the garage instead of applying to colleges. Look at your brother, already preparing for his MBA, and you're just tinkering. That tinkering became Chente Solutions, now valued at $100 million. But let me start from the beginning. 15 years ago, while Michael was starting his first year at Harvard, I dropped out of community college. The day I told my parents, you'd think I had committed a crime. Dad, a respected professor at Stanford, couldn't even look at me. Mom cried for weeks. When Michael came home for spring break, he smirked. Well, sis, I guess someone has to be the family disappointment, he said, tugging at his Harvard sweater. Don't worry. When I'm running a Fortune 500 company, I'll give you a job in the mailroom. That night, in my tiny garage workspace surrounded by circuit boards and half-finished prototypes, I made myself a promise. I would succeed, not by following their path but by creating my own. The first few years were brutal. While Michael posted pictures from glamorous MBA networking events, I slept on a futon in my one-room office, living on ramen noodles and coffee. But I had something my family couldn't see: vision. I saw a massive gap in the cybersecurity market. Big firms were focused on complicated, expensive solutions. Small businesses left completely vulnerable. So I created Security Shield, a simple, affordable suite that small businesses could actually understand and use. The first version was rough, but it worked. Word spread. One small business became 10. 10 became 100. By year 3, I'd landed my first $1 million contract. Did my family notice? Yes, but not in the way you'd expect. Cute little business you've got there, Rach, Michael said over Thanksgiving dinner. But you really should think about getting a proper education. You can't build a real company without credentials. Mom nodded eagerly. It's not too late, honey. Michael can help you apply to business schools. I just smiled and focused on my turkey. I was too busy scaling my company to argue. The next decade flew by. Chente Solutions expanded globally, launched new products, acquired smaller firms, and became a leader in small business cybersecurity. Ironically, even Fortune 500 companies started coming to us. Michael's career advanced too, partner at a top consulting firm by 35. Every family gathering turned into a highlight reel of his achievements. Michael just closed a $15 million deal. Michael was featured in Business Weekly. Michael's giving a keynote at Harvard. My success. Always qualified. Rachel's company is doing well, considering she's a dropout. Considering she has no formal training. Considering she's not Michael. Then came last week, Michael's promotion party at the Ritz-Carlton. He'd just been named CEO of his consulting firm's tech division. Mom and Dad threw a lavish celebration, inviting half of Silicon Valley, many of whom were my own clients and competitors, though my parents never realized it. I arrived early wearing a simple black dress. Mom frowned immediately. Couldn't you have made more of an effort? This is an important night for your brother. The evening unfolded as expected. Speeches praising Michael's brilliance, his credentials, his potential. Then Michael clinked his glass. Thank you all for coming, he began, flashing his perfect smile. As many of you know, I've just been named CEO of our technology division. But that's not the only exciting news. He paused, eyes locking on mine. I'm pleased to announce that we'll be expanding aggressively into the small business cybersecurity market. In fact, his smile sharpened, I'm hoping to acquire my sister's little company as our first move. It's time for Chente Solutions to have real, qualified leadership. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Let's be honest, Michael continued smoothly, you need proper credentials to compete today. My sister's done adequately considering her limitations. But it's time for Chente to evolve. Rachel, he turned directly to me, as your brother, I'm offering you a graceful exit. Let the professionals take over before your lack of education ruins everything you've built. Dad beamed with pride. Mom was already gushing to her friends about both children working together. The room waited for my response. Michael smirked, certain I'd surrender. Instead, I stood, smoothed my inadequate dress, and walked to the podium. "Thank you for the interesting offer, Michael," I said calmly. "I'll have my response ready tomorrow morning." Then I left. The next morning, I arrived at Chente headquarters before sunrise. I walked through the sleek glass offices I had built from nothing and prepared. At 9 a.m. sharp, Michael swept in with Dad and 2 corporate lawyers. His confident grin faltered when he saw me already seated. "Rachel," he said, adjusting his custom-made tie, "I'm glad you're here. These are our attorneys. They've prepared the acquisition paperwork. I think you'll find the offer very generous, considering my limitations?" I finished for him, smiling. "Please sit down. I have a few documents of my own to share." They settled in. Michael reached for what he assumed were resignation papers. Instead, I connected my laptop to the main screen. "Before we discuss your offer, there are some things you should know about my little company." Slide 1 appeared. "This is Chente's current valuation, $100 million, as verified by 3 independent firms last month." Michael's smirk faltered. "That's impossible. Our research." "Your research," I interrupted, "was based on public records. Records I keep intentionally incomplete. You see, while you were collecting degrees, I was collecting patents." Slide 2 appeared. "Chente holds over 200 proprietary security algorithms. The company you think you're acquiring? That's just the tip of the iceberg." Then came slide 3, our client list. Dad leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. His face went pale as he recognized one name after another, including Michael's own consulting firm. "That's right," I continued. "Your company's entire cybersecurity infrastructure runs on our systems, and has for years." I pulled up another document. "That $50 million deal you're so proud of, Michael? The client chose your firm specifically because you promised them the Chente security suite." Michael's face turned an interesting shade of gray. But that's impossible. I would have known." "Would you?" I asked softly. "Did you ever actually look into who developed the security systems you've been selling? Or did you just assume, like always, that anything I touched couldn't possibly be important?" The lawyers were frantically flipping through their binders, realizing their due diligence had missed something massive. But I wasn't done. And here's the most interesting part. I brought up the final document. "Remember that graceful exit you offered me? Well, I have a counterproposal." I slid folders across the table to each of them. "Chente Tech just acquired your consulting firm's entire technology division. The board approved it last night, unanimously. They were particularly impressed by our new quantum encryption technology, something else your due diligence missed." Michael practically ripped open the folder, his hands shaking. "This is a joke. The board would never." "The board that consists mainly of Chente clients?" I asked innocently. "The same board that depends on our systems to protect billions in assets? That board." Dad was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. One of the lawyers had already pulled out his phone, presumably confirming every word I said. "So here's what's going to happen." My voice was steady, deliberate. "You have 2 options, Michael. Option 1. You resign from the tech division immediately. You'll get a generous severance package and a glowing recommendation for any non-competing industry. Option 2. He whispered, his arrogance finally cracking. Option 2. Option 2, I said evenly. I release the records showing how your division has been taking credit for Chente innovations for years. I'm sure Harvard Business Review would love the headline. Ivy League CEO caught passing off sister's work as his own. The room fell silent. Through the glass walls I could see employees arriving, slowing their steps, watching the scene unfold. You wouldn't, Michael stammered. But his voice lacked conviction. We're family. I laughed softly. Family? Last night you called me unqualified, inadequate, and limited. You tried to humiliate me and steal my company in front of everyone we know. That's not family, Michael. That's just bad business. Dad finally found his voice. Rachel, surely we can discuss this. Your brother didn't mean. He meant every word. I cut him off. Just like you meant it every time you dismissed my work as tinkering. Just like Mom meant it every time she said my success was just luck. I stood, smoothing the same inadequate dress from last night. The acquisition papers are legally binding. The press release goes out in an hour. Your choice, Michael: quiet retirement or public scandal. 20 minutes later, I watched from my office window as Michael stormed out of the building, Dad hurrying after him. The lawyer stayed behind to finalize his resignation. That evening, Mom called in tears, sobbing about how I had destroyed Michael's career. I let it go to voicemail. Instead, I focused on the email I had just received. Harvard Business School wanted me to give their commencement speech next spring. The topic? Innovation without limits. Success beyond traditional paths. I accepted with a small smile. I already knew exactly what I'd say. After all, I had quite a story to tell. The next year brought changes no one expected. Chente's value tripled after we went public. Michael found a quiet job in real estate far from tech. Dad retired, finally understanding that credentials don't always equal competence. We still see each other on holidays, maintaining a careful distance that hides wounds unlikely to ever heal. Sometimes late at night I look at old family photos and feel a twinge of sadness for what we lost. But then I remember Michael's smirk, Dad's dismissal, Mom's doubts. And I remember, respect is earned, not handed out with degrees. These days when I speak at tech conferences I sometimes hear whispers. That's Rachel Chin, the dropout who. They never finish the sentence. They don't need to. My success speaks louder than any credential ever could. Just last week, I received an invitation to speak at Michael's old consulting firm's annual retreat. The topic? Recognizing innovation. Looking beyond traditional metrics. I accepted with a smile, remembering the night they thought a dropout couldn't possibly build anything worthwhile. Now, as I write this from my office overlooking Silicon Valley, I think back to something my first mentor told me. Success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. He was right. But sometimes, just sometimes, doing both feels pretty damn good. Chente continues to grow, pushing boundaries and breaking new ground. But more importantly, I've found peace with my path. Because the best revenge isn't about destroying others. It's about soaring so high they can't help but see their own limitations. After all, not all dropouts are created equal. And not all success stories follow the expected path. As for Michael's Harvard MBA, it looks great on his wall, right next to the real estate license he had to get after trying to steal the wrong little company from the wrong unqualified sister.